Hello everyone, Niklsun here, and welcome to Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. I'm your host, and on this show we're going to be breaking down all of the day's movie news and kind of giving a little bit of background into what it means for the production in general, such as casting decisions, trailer announcements, director announcements, things like that. So without any further ado, let's get started with today's hot topics. And the first topic we have to talk about today is a couple of recent casting additions to Star Wars Episode 7. So we now have, the speculation a while ago was that Lupita Nyong'o was actually in line for a role that she had had dealings with J.J. Abrams, and that she was going to be joining the cast. And then when the official cast announcement came out, Lupita was nowhere to be found. But the question remained. A lot of people said, well, she must have just not gotten the role. But there was, like, just in terms of dealing with ethnicity, there was no one else that was cast in a role that she would have been designed for, because unless she's being a completely standalone character and not related to anybody in any sense of the word in relation to the Star Wars universe, then it could have been played by anyone. But the fact that Daisy Ridley was really the only female cast that was announced with the full cast announcement, some people were wondering, like, okay, what's going on with this? But no, it's been officially announced. Lupita Nyong'o has joined the cast of Star Wars Episode 7. It's an undisclosed role, so we don't know exactly we don't know what role any of them are playing, but a lot of speculation has her playing a Sith. I think there was one character that was named based on a character that was in the Clone Wars saga, but I could be mistaken on that. But she is confirmed to now be a part of Star Wars Episode 7. We also have Gwendolyn Christie. She's kind of an unknown, but for those of you who watch Game of Thrones, you'll definitely recognize her. She plays Brienne of Tarth. Just on that basis alone, you know that she is going to be more than capable of fitting in with the Star Wars crew. I am over the hills excited about this casting announcement. First off, Lupita Nyong'o, the amount of intensity that she brought to her role in 12 Years a Slave, the reason why she won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. She had the best role in any film of that year, and I don't think anyone was going to argue that. And she just knocked it out of the park. I'm really excited to see her take on a major production like Star Wars and see what kind of role she gets to take care of with that. And again, Gwendolyn Christie, her casting came right out of nowhere. We had no idea that she was even in contention for a role in this film. So her being added on is just, I mean, you can't go wrong with adding two people like this. Like the level of talent these people have is incredible. So adding these people onto the film is just, by any stretch of the imagination, a good thing. But again, we don't know what roles they're going to be playing. We don't know how large of roles they're going to have, whether or not they're going to be main protagonist or antagonist, if they're just going to be, you know, just small roles pop up. Like, remember Samuel L. Jackson in Phantom Menace? You know, he showed up for one scene, but it was because his character was going to be featured a lot heavier in the following sequels. That could be another situation like this. Maybe, you know, Gwendolyn Christie is playing a Jedi Knight, you know, or just a member of a town or something like that. And then Lupita Nyong'o could be playing a Sith apprentice who has a small or minor role in this film and then grows to be a much larger villain in the sequels. We still don't know. This is all speculation at this point. But a couple of other things have actually popped up with Star Wars. A couple of set photos have leaked online, and these are really cool. So I'll bring up a couple of these right now. First off, we have this giant pig-like creature. It looks to be about 12 to 15 feet long. Like, this thing looks massive, but the level of detail that's been put into this thing is incredible. I mean, you can tell with the snout, with the folds on its legs, and the feet, and just the texture of the skin. It looks real. Like, it looks like they actually found this creature somewhere. And this is not a special effect. This is a practical effect, something that someone can interact with, as opposed to having some sort of green screen or just green box or circle that they have to interact with. It's an actual tangible object that they can interact with, not just with lighting in the scene, but with camera movements, with actors actually interacting with them. I think that's just fantastic, and you can even see that it's like a puppet. It's an animatronic creature because, as you can see, several guys will actually have to get inside this thing to pilot it, or to just maneuver it around, which I think is really, really cool. The fact that they are going as practical as they can with as many things as possible. If they can do it in camera, they're going to do it in camera, and JJ has had that viewpoint from the onset. Like, I completely admire that with J.J. Abrams. I mean, he's really bringing back the original trilogy aspect of this franchise. But then we also have some really titillating pictures here. The first one, as you can see, the Millennium Falcon is under construction. A full-size recreation of the Millennium Falcon is under construction. That to me is insane. Like the fact that they're actually going to have a full-fledged ship to interact with, as opposed to in the original trilogy. I don't believe it was a full ship that they built. I think it was just a section of the ship, and then they did a matte painting for the remainder of it, because there were parts that they did interact with. But the fact that they can interact with the entire thing, again, it just goes back to authenticity. It goes back to being able to have something tangible in the shot, and then they can even just fix it up and touch it up with CG if they need to. But the fact that they're building it is incredible. And on top of the Millennium Falcon, they're building an X-Wing, and it looks to be an updated X-Wing. It looks to be slightly modified or just altered in slightly different ways, a little bit more modern. And a lot of people are speculating that this is going to be Luke's vehicle of choice, that he's still going to be piloting an X-Wing. Han will still be piloting the Millennium Falcon. So, I mean, this is just great news. Even J.J. Abrams sent out a note stating that it was just a handwritten note, and it said, I wish that people would stop leaking these photos online. It had something to do with that. And the fact that, you know, the speculation that the Millennium Falcon's even included is ridiculous. That's basically the gist of the note. But the note was placed on top of the hollow chess pad that that C-3PO and Chewbacca were playing chess with in Star Wars Episode 4. Which is in the Millennium Falcon. Like, I love that about JJ. He is completely on board with keeping his level of secrecy, and even kind of doing tongue-in-cheek aspects to it, like saying, oh, you know, like, this is ridiculous, this isn't in it, yet the photo where it's taken is actually in the Millennium Falcon itself. I thought that was a great touch. This movie is just, it's growing and growing and growing in terms of its anticipation from people who are not only just looking forward to it, but really admiring the authenticity behind it, and the fact that they are really trying to push forward with what the original trilogy did, as opposed to just doing everything CGI. So I cannot be more ecstatic for this. You know, Star Wars Episode 7 opens up December 17th of 2015. As we get more information on this, I will definitely update you guys on this. And speaking of Star Wars, I believe it was about a week ago or a week and a half ago that we announced that Gareth Edwards was actually had been signed on to direct the first upcoming Star Wars standalone film that was going to be released in December of 2016. Well, now we have a second director. Chronicle director and the upcoming Fantastic Four reboot director Josh Trank has been lined up and signed to direct another Star Wars standalone film. Because of the nature that we know that they're going to be doing Episode 7 in 2015, standalone in 2016, Episode 8 in 2018, the next standalone film is going to be, 2017, and then 2018 is going to be the next standalone Star Wars film. So this is looking likely to be the one that he's going to be helming. Again, we don't know anything about the project, even with the first one. The first one is supposedly going to be Boba Fett. All signs are pointing towards Gareth Edwards directing Boba Fett and having a film set around that. Now, what that movie will be is another story, whether it will be an ensemble, whether it will be a revenge-type movie where he's a bounty hunter going after someone who wronged him. One speculation is that to get out of the continuity of the Star Wars movies, that Boba Fett is actually no longer a clone, so that they don't have to use the voice and likeness of Tamora Morrison, that they're actually going to have someone kill the actual Boba Fett and just take his armor and become the unopposed bounty hunter in the universe. Again, this is all speculation. We don't know exactly what the movie is going to be about. This one, however, looking at Josh Trank's filmography, the fact that, you know, he did Chronicle, which was very character focused, and then you have Fantastic Four, which we've been told is very character focused. It's likely that his movie is going to be the solo film, either the Han Solo or the Solo family spin-off film, dealing with just a younger Han Solo before he, kind of in his 20s, not in his 30s when we met him in Episode 4, but dealing with him when he's in his 20s, maybe when he gets the Millennium Falcon. Maybe it's a young Han Solo and young Lando Calrissian when they first met and their adventures together and why they separated for a little bit. But, you know, the thing with this, though, is Fox has already come out and announced that Fantastic Four 2 is scheduled for, I believe it's July 14th, 2017. that puts a wrinkle into whether or not Josh Trank will continue directing the Fantastic Four franchise. Now, looking at the time frames, if Disney and Lucasfilm are going to stick with the December release dates for all their upcoming Star Wars films, which is right now sounding likely, because we've got the spin-off film coming out in December of 2016, and if J.J. Abrams signs on to do the Star Wars Episode 8, then he will need at least 2 years to do that. So that will be a December 2017 release. If it's a December 2018 release for the next spin-off film, Josh Trank can technically get both Fantastic Four 2 and Star Wars spin-off 2 out, because the release date is July 14th, 2017. They're going to be done filming probably the end of the summer 2016. And they're going to be in post-production, which means when they're in post-production and he's overseeing all that stuff, he can also be prepping the Star Wars movie, going into script to do script notes, looking into pre-production on costumes and all that kind of stuff. He can be doing both. And then once Fantastic Four 2 opens in July, he can then fully siege into Star Wars. And that still gives him a year and a half to film it. They could be working on the script and the pre-production while he's finishing up Fantastic Four 2. And then once July hits, they can then siege into fully getting pre-production finished, and then in maybe, like, again, it's all going to depend on the amount of special effects, the amount of editing work that they're going to need to do. But they could theoretically, by the end of that summer, be filming on the spin-off film, and that gives them more than a year to do post-production. So theoretically, it could work. But again, we still don't know if he's going to be on board for Fantastic Four 2. They haven't even announced that he is going to be directing Fantastic Four 2. They just announced that they are going to be doing it. So again, he's not signed on for Fantastic Four 2, but he is for Star Wars Standalone 2. And yeah, I can see him doing both. I can see that really happening. Again, Lucasfilm has such a long history with Fox, with their Star Wars films. I can see them potentially working out a deal. Now, again, different regimes are running both companies now, so they may have a difference of opinion. Again, this is all speculation, but I can see him doing both. I would like to see him focus on just one, and if he had to, I can't even really make an opinion on that because I haven't seen what his take on Fantastic Four is yet. And if Fantastic Four is a knockout, if it just knocks everything out of the park, I may want him to come back for Fantastic Four 2, just to spearhead that in the same direction that he's got the first one going, and then still have enough time to do the Star Wars spin-off film. He can still do it. But again, it's all going to depend on whether or not they're actually going to go that route, which we still don't know yet. But as we get more information on this, I will definitely update you guys on here. And the last bit of news we got to talk about is an update from what I talked about a month and a half, 2 months ago, where a short list of directors were announced for the upcoming Marvel Doctor Strange. And so Doctor Strange has not even been confirmed to be a movie in either Phase 3, Phase 4, or anything like that. Kevin Feige has said we are doing a movie, we just don't know when it's going to be. We have no inclination as to when we're actually going to get ahead with it. We don't know where it fits in with our storyline, but the increasing talk on this project has led people to believe that it will be part of Phase 3. So Phase 3 will most likely comprise of Ant-Man, Captain America 3, most likely Thor 3, Doctor Strange, and then we have one other film before we get Avengers 2, or Avengers 3. I'm even wondering what that other film could be. Some speculation has been a Guardians of the Galaxy sequel. Some speculation has been another standalone film altogether, perhaps Black Panther. We may even get the rumored Black Widow movie. We still don't know yet. We don't even know what the official lineup is outside of Ant-Man and Captain America 3. Those are the only two confirmed movies we know of in Phase 3. So, Scott Derrickson, who directed Sinister, he directed The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and he has the upcoming movie Deliver Us from Evil coming out later on this summer. He has now, he hasn't officially signed on yet, but he's in talks, which means that they found their guy, they like him. Now the lawyers are just dealing out the actual contract itself, but he's basically signed on. And the one telltale sign with that was he sent out a Twitter pic that said, in the quote, he just said, "My next movie will be Strange," and Strange was all in capital letters, and he was standing there like this, holding up a Doctor Strange comic book. I mean, that spells it out right there. He's confirmed. He's going to be directing he's going to be directing Doctor Strange. And on the last episode that I said, out of all the directors that came out, I thought that he was the most adept. He was the one who I liked the most because he had such a different viewpoint from the other Marvel films, where this is going to be mysticism. This is going to be magic. This is going to be very different from anything we've seen from Marvel thus far. So, with that being said, they need to get a different director, a unique vision from a unique director. And someone like Scott Derrickson can definitely do that because he's able to take all these fantastical elements in his horror films, specifically Sinister. If you haven't seen Sinister, that's a really creepy movie, but it's very well handled. And you can tell the subtleties and nuances that he's able to bring to that because he keeps it grounded while dealing with fantastical and mythological elements. So the fact that they've got him now for Doctor Strange is encouraging to say the least. I cannot be more happy with this selection. I mean, there are probably a couple other directors out there, if you had to mention their name, I would have said, yeah, they'd be a good fit. But the fact that they're getting lesser known names, but still very talented people, like look at the Russo brothers. Look at what they did with Captain America 2. When I first heard that they were doing it, I was like, really? The guys who did Community? This is gonna be weird. But no, it was one of, if not the best Marvel Cinematic Universe films that they've done. And I am over the moon with this. I am so happy for mostly I think because they've actually announced that Doctor Strange is coming. We know it's now officially in the pipeline. We just don't know exactly when. Now, a couple of rumored people who have been involved with it, the rumors have it that Johnny Depp and Jared Leto have both been heavily rumored. Johnny Depp's been rumored for a while. Jared Leto is a fairly new one. I don't know if I like Jared Leto. He's got too much of the pretty boy look, which is not what Doctor Strange has. Doctor Strange was a neurosurgeon who lost the ability to use his hands, but yet gained mystical abilities to be able to control magic. And I can't see someone like Jared Leto doing that. The top two names who have been thrown out there from users on all these websites have been Mads Mikkelsen, who currently is playing Hannibal Lecter on the show Hannibal, and he's doing an excellent job of that. But the other name is Viggo Mortensen. Now, Viggo Mortensen has kind of a stick up his ass. He really feels entitled to every project. I mean, the dude's a talented actor, do not get me wrong. But he really feels like excuse the language, but his shit doesn't stink. And the fact that, like, I mean, the comments that he made a couple of weeks ago about Lord of the Rings and about The Hobbit, about how, like, his reliance on CGI and you know, not really kind of letting the tale of CG in general just lose control and use too much of it. I really like he's bashing the movies that actually made him. No one knew about Viggo Mortensen before those films. So I don't know if Marvel bringing him on is going to be a good idea because he's probably going to have so many contract obligations that they're not even going to want him to be on there. But no actor is still attached yet. Kevin Feige has come out and stated, though, that the tone that they're looking for with this film is a Kubrick meets The Matrix type of tone. That right there, just, that I am fitting in with Avengers, with Thor, with Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, all these movies. Something like that? Oh, that is unbelievable. I need this movie to come out now. Like, this looks incredible. Everything that we're hearing about this is shaping up to be great. We all know, though, Marvel's deft hand on their projects, though. Well, I mean, the only one that really people are noticing now is Ant-Man. I'll get more into that in a little bit. But the fact that they're going with this type of a tone completely different to what all the other movies are going to be, I am very excited for this next slate of Marvel films. They're all going to be different. They're all going to be unique. They're all going to be second-tier characters who've never been introduced before, with the exception of the sequels to Captain America and Thor. All these are going to be new characters. I'm very excited for this. So when we get more information, if we get casting announcements or actual announcements if it's going to be in Phase 3 or not, I'll definitely update you guys on here. All right, well, that'll bring us to Rapid Fire. So Rapid Fire is a segment of the show where I'm going to talk about little updates on projects I've already dealt with or things that have just come out that we don't really have a lot of information about. So the first bit of Rapid Fire we have to talk about is another downfall with Ant-Man. And Ant-Man, for those of you who don't know, Ant-Man is it's the first Phase 3 film from Marvel. It's a unique property because hardly anyone out there knows what it is, and it's going to be a very interesting take on a Marvel comic because he's a very goofy character. I don't mean goofy as in yuck, yuck, yuck. I mean he's goofy in the fact that he can communicate with ants. He can either shrink himself down or make himself whatever size he wants to, and it's just a very unique property. It's going to take a very unique hand to be able to bring this to the big screen. up until recently, Edgar Wright, the director of Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, he has been attached to direct this movie. He's also been co-writing it with a man named Joe Cornish, who directed Attack the Block a couple of years ago. A lot of people don't even know about Joe Cornish. He co-wrote Tintin for Steven Spielberg. So, I mean, he's got a lot of script history. He's got a lot of knowledge in how to do all that kind of stuff. But up until now, once he dropped out, once Edgar Wright dropped out, there were 3 people who were rumored to be taking his place. The most likely of which was Adam McKay, who directed Anchorman, Anchorman 2, Step Brothers, Talladega Nights. He's since passed on the project due to other obligations with other projects. The other 2 names that were linked were Ruben Fleischer, who directed Zombieland and Gangster Squad, and the other one was Rawson Marshall Thurber, who directed Dodgeball and last year's We're the Millers. Well, it looks as though Rawson Thurber had emerged as the frontrunner. Now it looks as though he wasn't even contacted about the gig. This was just a complete rumor. So either he passed on it or was just playing coy. That basically came out and said that he wasn't even contacted about getting the film. So that left Ruben Fleischer. Ruben Fleischer has been linked now through Sony to direct Ghostbusters 3. And because Ant-Man is going to be filming very soon, Ruben Fleischer just had a baby with his wife. So he's going to want to spend a lot of time at home with his family. And getting the gig to do something like Ghostbusters 3 is at least a year, if not longer, away from filming. He's got plenty of time to spend time with his family. So that seems more likely of the 2. Ant-Man does not seem likely for him, and with Rawson Thurber not even being contacted for the gig, this is seeming even more and more like a disaster of a script, that they've gutted it to the point where no one wants to touch this film. It's almost looking like Marvel is now looking for a paint-by-numbers director, someone who they can just come in and say, do this, do this, do this, you're going to shoot it like this, shoot it like this, shoot it like this. You don't get any say in the script, all the script notes will come from us. That's what I'm getting from all this feeling about the directors coming in and then dropping out, or not even just being rumored, not even being attached. The cast is still attached, so we still have Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Pena, and Patrick Wilson. They are all still attached. They are still trudging ahead for a July 17, 2015 release. Again, unless we get an announcement within the next week or 2 that a new director is on board, that does not seem likely at all, because we are approaching a year away. And this is going to be a heavy CGI'd film. There's going to be a lot of special effects in this movie. You can't do a lot of this stuff practically. So, with that being said, I'm worried about this project. I hope that they get someone on who just reinstills confidence in this project. But as it stands right now, I've lost a lot of confidence in this project within the past 2 weeks. Very sad times for Marvel. And the last bit of rapid fire we have to talk about is another little bit of upsetting news. The Wachowski siblings had a new movie coming out this summer called Jupiter Ascending, and it was going to star Channing Tatum, Mila Kunis, and Sean Bean. It was about Mila Kunis playing, it was almost like a Cinderella story, or not necessarily Cinderella, but more like an Anastasia story, where she was basically a housekeeper, like a janitor of sorts. She scrubbed toilets for a living. And Channing Tatum plays an intergalactic bounty hunter. I know this is going to sound weird, but it's heavy sci-fi. It's what the Wachowskis do best. Because they did The Matrix, you know, they did V for Vendetta, they did Cloud Atlas, they do special effect, or they do sci-fi really, really well and really in depth. So, Channing Tatum played a intergalactic bounty hunter who was half albino, half werewolf. Stay with me. And he was sent on behalf of an intergalactic committee to save Mila Kunis' character, who was a descendant of the Queen of the Universe. So she is now the only blood relative of the Queen of the Universe, so she can take up the throne. Well, the person who's ruling the throne right now does not want that, and he's trying to send, he would rather destroy Earth than have her rule it, essentially. So, with that storyline, like especially with the trailers have not done a great job of selling the movie, but I am overly ecstatic about it just because the visuals look impressive. I am obsessed with hard sci-fi. I love how intricate it can be. Well, Jupiter Ascending was supposed to come out in July, I believe. It has now been delayed until February 2015. This has me really worried because some reports online I've been reading have been saying that they haven't been hearing very good things about this film. things that either from early screenings, or not necessarily early screenings, but studio screenings, or through the back end hearing about studio notes and things that they need to change in post. Apparently, the reason for this actually is to finish up special effects. Why they didn't delay it earlier is beyond me, because we're a month and a half away from it coming out. This screams of G.I. Joe 2. When G.I. Joe 2 was like 3.5 weeks away from being released, they delayed it almost a year. Now, that was to convert it to 3D. As far as I'm aware, Jupiter Ascending's already coming out in 3D. So to tighten up on special effects does seem likely. To delay it that long, that means they have a lot of special effects that they need to work on. Either that or they're dumping it, because January, February is usually the dumping period for when studios do not have a lot of faith in their projects. They will release them in that time frame. So I've been eagerly awaiting this movie. I've been so excited for it. The fact that they're delaying it really doesn't instill me with a lot of hope. I'm really hoping that this project comes together. I'm really hoping it knocks it out of the park and brings the Wachowskis back into the forefront. I think they're talented directors. They're talented writers. I mean, look what they did for V for Vendetta, because they didn't direct that. They just wrote that movie. And but I mean, let's not talk about Speed Racer. And this worries me. It just worries me, because whenever you see a studio delay a movie, it's never usually for a good reason. They usually will move up a film if they have confidence in it. They want it out as quickly as possible. Delaying it to February, that just doesn't sound good. If it is just to finish up CGI, then that will be better. If we get everyone coming out and saying, no, like if we get other people, if they send in people to do test screening and say, listen, this is why we're doing it, because these special effects just don't look right yet. But as you can see, the movie as a whole is very tight. It's very well written. The storyline is engaging. The characters are engaging. If we start hearing positive word of mouth about this project, then my hope will be basically restored. But as it stands right now, I am not all that hopeful about this project anymore, and it's really upsetting because I was so looking forward to it. But yeah, once we get more information about this, I'll definitely update you guys. But it is really sad to hear that they're delaying another high-profile project, one that was bound to be a good summer film, but it was probably going to get overshadowed by other projects. So I mean, I can kind of see why they would try to get rid of it, but to move it to February instead of something like September doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, when we get more information about this, I will definitely update you guys on here. Alright, well, that'll do it for us here on Movie News with Niklsun. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have been a great audience. Don't forget to click subscribe there in the bottom corner. You can get updates whenever I post a new video. You can follow me on Twitter at Niklsun, Niklsun, for more updates on whenever I put out, or whenever new movie information comes out. You can also check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/movie news with Niklsun. On there, you can start discussions or comments or anything like that that you may want to have with other people, and just talk about movies, all that kind of stuff. Or if you have any questions or comments that you would like to have submitted to the show when we answer them on Friday episodes, you can either put a comment in the comments section, or you can click this link down here at the bottom of the screen, and it'll take you to my website, movienewswithniklsun.ca. And in that section, there's a contact section where you can put a comment or a question or topic or anything like that you would like to have answered on the show, and we will talk about that on Friday's episode. So, without any further ado, this has been Niklsun. Thank you guys so much, and you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.